All right, so this is what we're going to be doing here today. We basically have a blog post that shows you exactly how to do everything you see here, but this is just going to be somewhat of a representation, a video just to walk you through that process. So the first thing I want to touch on is the local variables that are here. And as I go through the rest of the two stages, you'll see how they come into play. The things that you should note is that some of these variables are of string type, some of dictionary type, some of integer type. The REST link URL is used to hold the URI of the SharePoint REST endpoint that we're trying to get to. Request headers is going to be basically collecting information to get JSON data back, which is basically the HTTP attributes we need. The title is going to be the title of the list item that we want to return back. The index is going to play a role inside of our loop. That's our lower end. The count of all items is going to be the upper bound value, which is the topmost inside our data set that's being returned. Our response code is part of the web service call. The JSON results is actually another dictionary item, which is going to hold all of the information coming back from the service call. Calc is used to as part of our loop incrementer. The all data set is used to get the subset of data that we need from our JSON array. And the myTran type is basically the transaction type that we need. So you get all of this already from reading the blog post. So the first thing we need to do is to set the URI, which is from our SharePoint list, the Bank of Fabian, and we're using OData to get that. And we could have put a query here to limit that back just to get the title, but we wanted another item in there, so we just left it as is. We're building a dictionary item here, and we have two values which are going to be of string data type inside that area. And as you can see, it's the accept attribute, which is of string, accepting application/JSON, semicolon OData equal verbose. And we also have the same thing for our content/type, application data JSON, semicolon OData equal verbose. Those two items form a dictionary object called request headers, which we use inside the web service call. But before we get there, you can see that we're doing the call web service, and we're using the variable from here. And we have our dictionary item JSON results, which is getting the response content. To be thorough, if we go to the properties here, you can see the address, the URI there. It's a get call. The headers is the request headers that you see right here that was built out. The response content is the another dictionary item that you see there that is coming back there. Now, next thing that we do, based on what we saw, by the way, we should show you off the bat that the data that we're trying to get is coming from the Bank of Fabian. As you can see, there's 5 items in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those 5 items, if you look in terms of the JSON data, you see that it comes in the form of JSON, then a JSON array, and then our results, and then inside here you have the representation of the 5 items being a zero-based index. It goes from 0 all the way through 4. So what we're doing here is we're taking this piece, the D and the results, and bringing that as a subset from our service call here and putting that into a new dictionary item here called all dataset. From within that all dataset, we're going to do a get count of all the items inside there and put it inside this variable, which is going to be, as I said, the upper bound value of the data set. Then we're just logging to see how many items there are there, just so that we can have that visual representation inside our log. Then the next thing we do is we initialize our index variable to 0, create a loop, and in this loop instance, we can loop either n times or with condition. We're doing a with condition because we know the upper bound value, and inside there we're basically setting it here, the lower bound value being the index, which is the initialization of it, which is 0, and continue that until it's while it's less than the upper bound value, which is the item we got from here. Next thing we do is because we already have this subset of data, the only thing we need to do now is put the index inside the get item from dictionary, and we want the title here, and we want the transaction type here, which, as you can see, marries up to the data, the metadata coming from the list service itself, and we're outputting this to the string variables that we defined before. And then we log it nicely to the log. You're saying this is the title and this is the transaction type. And of course, we could be doing something else with that. We could be either putting this information into another create item in a list, or we could be sending an email. We could be doing all sorts of stuff with that. The next thing we do is we increment our counter by 1, and then we loop back again. So the way that looks inside workflow is that we have a site workflow, and inside that site workflow we have this learning about dictionary value, which is the name of this right here. And if we go ahead and just click on this item here, it kicks off. We're going to F5 it. We can see that it's it started, and here it's wrapping up, and here it's completed. It's not that not that difficult, but once you look inside it, you can see it says, yep, we have 5 items, and here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items being returned, and that's representing basically the items inside the bank of Fabian here. So we basically loop through all of that, and we've got a result set. As an aside, I want to show you the data set. So let me bring that over here. Here, this is the URI that we called, and this is basically the JSON view of it. But if you just call the URI by itself, you'll basically get an XML representation, because the SharePoint API doesn't know how to respond back in JSON. To get that JSON, basically I'm using this Chrome extension called change HTTP header, and I basically have an accept type that takes in my application/JSON so that I could get the item. So in a result, that is basically it. Thank you very much. I hope you found this extremely useful.